Welcome to Kill A Mockingbird, Chapter 19. Chapter 19 is Tom Robinson's testimony. So first thing we'll talk about is a few things that we know about Tom Robinson through this chapter. One, we know that Tom Robinson is 25 years of age. He's married and has 3 children. He's been arrested before for fighting, disorderly conduct, and did 30 days in the county jail. Scout says that besides his shriveled left arm, he was a fine specimen of a man, meaning he's good looking. He has good manners, and according to this is on page 220. It occurred to me that in their own way, Tom Robinson's manners were as good as Atticus'. So Tom Robinson has really refined manners. He picks cotton for Mr. Link Diaz in the summer and works around Diaz's yard in the winter. He has to pass by the Yule household every day to and from work, and he often stopped to help Mayella. So Tom's testimony. He chopped up the chiffro that Mayella stated in her testimony for her, but he did it last spring, not on November 21st. After that first time that he stopped and chopped off the chiffro, he stopped often to help. And this is on page 218. She'd call me and it seemed like every time I passed by yonder, she'd have some little something for me to do. Chopping kindling, toting water for her. She watered them red flowers every day. So every time he goes by, she has something for him to do. And as I stated before, the geraniums are an important symbol. She watered them, according to Tom Robinson, every day. Or it seemed like she watered them every day. Atticus asked if Tom was paid for his services, and he says no. Then there's this comment, and this is Scout, about Mayella being lonely. Would Tom, Atticus asked, would Miss Mayella talk to you? Yes, sir, she talked to me. As Tom Robinson gave his testimony, it came to me that Mayella Ewell must have been the loneliest person in the world. She was even lonelier than Boo Radley. She was as sad, I thought, as what Jim called a mixed child. White people wouldn't have anything to do with her because she lived among pigs. Negroes wouldn't have anything to do with her because she was white. She couldn't live like Mr. Dolphus Raymond, who preferred the company of Negroes because she didn't own a riverbank. And she wasn't from a fine old family. Nobody said, that's just her way about the Yules. Macomb gave them Christmas baskets, welfare money, and the back of its hand. Tom Robinson was probably the only person who was ever decent to her. So then you get to the night of the 20th. So you have this, the connection almost with Boo Radley, the fact that she's a lonely person. As I stated before in the last chapter, no one has ever been nice to her. No one's ever been on her side. Then we get to the night of November 21st. She asked Tom in to help with the door that had fallen off its hinges. Tom notices that the children are not there. And this is on 220. I was wondering why it was so quiet-like, and it come to me that there weren't a child on the place. Not one of them. And I said, Miss Mayella, where are the children? I say, where are the children? He continued. And she says, she was laughing, sort of. She says, they've all gone to town to get ice creams. She says, took me a slap year to save 7 nickels, but I done it. They've all gone to town. So Tom sees that the door is okay. So he tells Mayella that there's nothing he can do for her. She asks him to get a box down from the top of another ship road. And while he's doing this, she grabs him around the waist. She grabbed me around the legs, grabbed me around the legs. Mr. Finch, I got down off that chair and turned around, and she just sort of jumped on me. Then then she kisses him after she just, noticed. So she hugged me. She hugged me around the waist. She reached up and kissed me on the side of the face. She says she's never kissed a grown man before, and she might well kiss a nigger. She says what her pa do to her don't count. So Tom Robinson tries to get this box off the shift rope for her. She jumps and hugs him around the waist. He, falls off. He almost falls off the chair, overturns it. She hugs him and then kisses him. And then she says the one thing that is really telling. She says, "What her pa do to her don't matter." Note that there's an interview, you can find it online, with a friend of Harper Lee, a woman who was the chief of the Birmingham Police Department for years, and she said that line made alarms go off in her. May Ella's father was physically abusing her. Then Bob Ewell sees him in the window from outside and calls May Ella a whore. He says, "You goddamn whore, I'll kill you." Now, there's two things to think about this word whore. He calls her a whore as if perhaps he owns her. Perhaps in his point of view, he's in some sort of relationship with her, or she's also with a black man, which is taboo. So there's a couple things going on there. Then, of course, Tom runs. He would not have dared strike a white woman under any circumstances and expect to live long. So he took the first opportunity to run, a sure sign of guilt. Atticus asked, "Well, why did you run?" "I was scared, sir." "Why were you scared?" "Mr. Finch, if you was a nigger like me, you'd be scared too." And then that's sort of the end of Atticus's examination. And then we get Mr. Gilmer. And Mr. Gilmer is a sign of the racist society and the fact that the court system is out, is against Tom because of his skin color. He calls Tom Robinson boy 7 times. And I'm going to go through each one of them. "Had your eye on her a long time, hadn't you, boy? Then you were mighty pleased doing all that chopping and hauling for her, weren't you, boy? With Mr. Ewell and 7 children on the place, boy? You did all this chopping and work from sheer goodness, boy? Then you say she's lying, boy. Didn't Mr. Ewell run you off the place, boy? Are you being impudent to me, boy?" So there's 7 boys that he uses in his testimony. And Mr. Gilmer's entire purpose in his cross-examination is to get Tom Robinson to admit that he was sorry for May Ella. And this is on 225. "Why were you so anxious to do that woman's chores? Looked like she didn't have nobody to help her, like I says. With Mr. Ewell and 7 children on the place? Well, I says it looked like they never helped her none. You did all this chopping and work from sheer goodness. Tried to help her, I says. You a mighty good fellow, it seems. Did all this for not 1 penny. Yes, sir. I felt right sorry for her. She seemed to try more than the rest of 'em." You felt sorry for her? You felt sorry for her. Mr. Glimmer knows that once he has this admission from Tom Robinson, he knows that he's won the case, and that's the only thing he's really going after in this cross-examination. And it disrupts the crowd, the white crowd on the lower floor. Below us, nobody liked Tom Robinson's answer. Mr. Gilmer paused for a long time to let it sink in. Dill becomes ill from the meanness and the hatred in the court that he is, and particularly Mr. Gilmer's cross-examination. So ill that he has to go outside for fresh air. And here's what he says: that old Mr. Gilmer that old Mr. Gilmer doing him that way, talking so hateful to him. The way that man called him boy all the time and sneered at him and looked around at the jury every time he answered. It ain't right. Somehow it ain't right. Hasn't anybody got any business talking like that? It just makes me sick. And then after he says that, he Mr. Raymond, Officer Raymond, is there and begins to talk to Dill. And that is really what happens. That conversation is really chapter 20. So that is chapter 19. Quick overview. The major theme, of course, here is still racism. The Tom Robinson doesn't have a chance. We see in the court, particularly when Mr. Gilmer starts his cross-examination. We see that the court system, particularly in Macomb, is not equal for both whites and blacks. And it's obvious so far that the prosecution, the witnesses for the prosecution have been lying, and that Tom Robinson is the only person that's really been honest. All right, that's it for today. I hope that helps. Talk to you tomorrow.